Hey everyone, Avengers Infinity War has been in our lives for a month or so, and many of us are still trying to process all of those huge game changers. And you guys have been reaching out to us with some lingering questions that you still have after the movie. So this episode, we thought we'd do a Q&A to do our best to answer all of your questions.
Q&A.
First, welcome to New Rockstars News, everyone. It's our deep dive into all the biggest stories from this week. So in addition to doing this Infinity War Q&A, we're also going to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp, and this news about The Walking Dead without Rick Grimes, and the Harley Quinn animated series, the Daredevil Season 3 on Netflix, and more topics. I'm Erik Voss. Joining me at this table are...
This is Sam over here. Thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Filup.
Ooh, and we're here, guys.
Filup.
And we're here to help. We're going to get started with your big unanswered questions from Avengers Infinity War. And as I said, we're going to do a Q&A. We're going to read the tweets and comments that you guys have been so awesome to write for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I actually get a lot of DMs from people who ask questions, and after the first two, I got too nervous. So this is a good episode.
We're gonna go deep into it.
Keep sliding into Sam's DMs. He enjoys it.
All right, Jeremy Hawkins tweeted us asking about when Spider-Man saves Iron Man from Cull Obsidian early in the movie. Iron Man asks where he came from, and Spider-Man says the future, maybe? That's what some people heard. That's what I heard. This is a short answer. We just want to clear this up right away because a lot of you have been asking us about this. He does not say the future. What does he say?
Field trip.
Field trip.
He says field trip.
Because he was on a field trip.
It sounds like future a little bit. It took me a couple times, like, rewatching the movie.
But hey, Spider-Man comics have been around for so long. It could be they could dabble with the time travel story if they want to.
That'd be kind of cool for old Peter and young Peter to come together. I'm just thinking of in the comics where he's like he kind of hates being Spider-Man.
He's ready to retire.
Fun. Yeah, exactly. Telling him he shouldn't do this. Oh, and then he has a Christmas movie experience.
Oh, Wonderful Life.
Exactly. It's a Wonderful Life, but Spider-Man edition.
Remember right before he gets to see his whole life over again?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's definitely field trip. But hey, since there's plenty of time travel in this movie, I understand why you thought you heard that.
You know who could be from the future? Go to Erik's shot real quick. Look at this. Look how cool
John
this
Connor?
You're like nude.
yeah. Give me a second.
That looks so cool.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next question that a lot of you guys have been asking. A bunch of you guys actually asked us this one. Aquib, Ryan Burns, and Bruce. Bruce DeBoss. You guys were asking, what were the Guardians doing before Infinity War?
Sleeping.
Probably sleeping, hanging out.
Eating.
Stealing, right?
Yeah.
Helping people and then taking their money?
Being scoundrels, outlaws.
Space pirates.
Space cowboys.
At the beginning of the movie, what are they doing, right? They're just responding to a distress call, hoping to get money out of saving people and
or stealing
blackmailing
stuff
them for their ship. Yeah, stealing from them. And that's what they were doing at the beginning of Volume 2. You know, they were taking a gig.
Basically, go watch Firefly, and then those episodes are what they were doing.
And just hold up little pictures of the actors' faces over the other, like Alan Tudyk. It's like, no, that's Rocket. There you go.
Let's move on to another question. Alex VC and Manu Spinoz wanted to know, could Thanos just have created more planets to spread out the resources instead of killing half the universe?
Quick answer, Alex. Yes, absolutely. You're totally right. That's totally perfect.
He has a magic wishing arm. He could do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. But I do like that they grounded it in the fact that he's basing it off of what happened to his planet, and he didn't have magic wishing arm as far as we know, or had an idea of using that to like wean down the population of Titan. Instead, he was like, we should just randomly execute people. He's like, it's not from his point of view, he says this isn't the best, but it's random. It's like we try to make this as fair as possible. It's never going to be fair, but they try to make it as fair as possible. So he just applies that to the whole universe. And the only problem is he says half of all life. So what does that mean? Does that mean half of all plant and animals? So does that mean
half
that
of all sentient life? Maybe
seems like, or anything that's taking up resources.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you could argue that like plants use up carbon dioxide, and that's a resource.
No, but they create oxygen. Like there must be something where you're like a net drain on the world, like us.
What do they say in biology? There's consumers and there's producers, right?
Well, like,
an ecosystem. So anything that's a consumer, maybe.
If you wanted to go deep, like sometimes when you plant large crops of corn, they can sometimes, or cotton has been known to like kind of like suck up all the nutrients from like certain crops, so you can't really plant anything there for a while, so it ruins it. So maybe that's seen as, I'm just saying, when you say half of all life, you're just kind of taking the whole thing and just shrinking it down, so you still have the same problem, just at a smaller scale.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. Like, yeah, if you think about this hard enough, he can feasibly do anything when you're like God over the universe? Maybe just the snap is simpler and quicker, and he's thinking of like what's something I can do real fast for like the brief amount of time I may be able to have all stones.
You should have just put like balloons in all our stomachs, and then we eat half as much or something. You know what I mean? Like he could have solved it so many ways. Yeah, your stomach's been stapled. Yeah.
Oh,
plants with stapled stomachs.
Yeah, it'd be cute.
Yeah.
But it's not perfect. If you really want to start poking holes, it's not perfect. He's a maniac. And
it's more exciting. It's more exciting to have a villain who wants to kill half of people. But like, it wouldn't be that exciting to see him like gradually build another half of the universe. Maybe he felt that those would be overpopulated too.
Yeah, both problems will eventually return. Yeah, but I guess one also that version does have more problems eventually, right? To increase the size of every planet, well, slowly they're gonna like crash into each other. You know, like right now everything's kind of in a state of homeostasis, and if you did have way more land or something, or like literally you would have to double size the planet, is what this person's suggesting. The impact of that on the rest of the galaxy would be very destructive. So there's just a lot of like math that would have to be done.
Make the universe bigger.
Yeah. Well, this actually brings us to our next question asked by Khalil and a bunch of other you guys. If Thanos' snap randomly picked half the population to fade away, how could Doctor Strange be sure that Stark would survive? That seemed to be a big part of his agenda, right? Like, how would he know? And I guess the real question is, if Doctor Strange could fast forward time to see all these different 14 million different possibilities, did that ability allow him to look beyond his own fading away, in that he has like an omniscient view of what happens in the timeline events, or can he only see up to the point of his death or fading away?
The Eye of Agamotto has not shown that it's like specifically attached to the person wielding it, right? And he's really looking through its eye, so it can see probably beyond his own death. They failed in Doctor Strange. I'm assuming that might have included, his own death, and he could see beyond that. So I do think he can see beyond that. The question is, can he see, based on the number of realities that he saw, this one where the exact people that got killed were the same ones? In other words, Tony Stark, did he know that Tony was going to die? I think it might sound like impossible when you think, well, you have 14 million versions you've seen, right? 14 million?
It's over 14 million.
Yeah. But if you randomize, let's even just say Earth for a second, every single person has a 1 out of 2 chance, right? So then if he needs it to be this exact arrangement of everyone on Earth, then you have to multiply each one of those 1 out of 2 chances, and it'd have to be this exact one. So pretty quickly he would exceed 14 million realities that he would have had to have checked. But that's not important, actually, because Sam and me aren't helping the world in any way, really, but definitely not in this scenario. So he doesn't need to care about that. He probably did go forward enough to see, including randomizations of the important players like Tony Stark, like Black Widow, whoever, right? Like, okay, in this scenario, it's randomized and takes Tony, and it leaves Cap, and it takes I always mess up his name, but Spider-Man's friend, because I always base it on I always call him Genki, and then I mess it up. But like whatever, like he knows based on the important players, I would think, which ones need to go. So this was the reality where everything lined up perfectly. Maybe also that punch from Star-Lord that he allowed to happen again is because in the version where he gets punched, it's this exact people that get snapped out.
Yeah, and I'm willing to say I don't know for sure if it was random by Thanos. I know he did say it was random. It seemed like you're flipping a coin by
you're cool, you're not cool.
I think there's a version of this where we'll see Thanos like wanted to leave certain people behind, and we just don't know for sure if it was.
That's kind of cool. Like subconsciously, I think that whole confrontation maybe wasn't to get the glove off, to like get rid of the gauntlet. Maybe he was setting up the necessary things to change Thanos' mind down the line. That he showed him enough of like, this is what you did to Star-Lord. This is the kind of philosophies that we're talking about, and showing this is what Tony's willing to do to stop you, and that maybe there's like, anyways, it's just planting ideas in his head, and maybe that gives him enough time to be exposed to the Soul Stone to maybe alter his physiology. There's a bunch of fun ideas that you can throw out there, but maybe he did know exactly who was going to, maybe if he did this, and this, Tony being close to death meant that for some reason he didn't have to die in the snap. That seems unfair, honestly, because he just stabbed him in the stomach and he was bleeding out on an alien planet. Maybe put him out of his misery. Yeah. Anyways, there's fun ideas there, but like maybe he didn't know, and maybe subconsciously he did choose to save the specific people because they could stop him in the future.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, another pattern that you guys picked up on in the movie, just kind of a detail that stood out, is there, and then Deepak asked about this, and a couple others reached out as well. What is the significance of the number 17 in the movie, and is there a significance? I think you're referring to there's a moment earlier in the film when Tony Stark summons the Iron Spider armor, and it's from like 17A, it's from storage bin 17. And then later in the movie, Black Panther instructs the Wakandan people to open up the shield at number 17 or something like that. But yeah, 17 does show up twice. Yeah, when I saw this in the movie, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's because like this is a 17th MCU movie, but it's not. It's either the 18th or the 19th.
There's no way to know.
Yeah, there's no way to count. I'm pretty sure Thor Ragnarok was the 17th. If not, Black Panther was the 17th. So maybe it could be like 17 preceding films, or you know, are there 17 in the comics somewhere?
I mean, they were shooting it in 17. You know.
Yeah, 2017.
You lost your virginity in 17. Like a lot of things happen with 17.
Maybe Peter's 17 at this point because he's still in high school, maybe not graduated yet.
Oh, yeah.
That could be it. It's not the most exciting answer, but
yeah, there's James Gunn actually
made it work. Yeah,
the number 12 actually shows up a lot in screenwriting and scripts because the number 12, when you write it out as a word, is the longest one-syllable number word that is of the highest number. So after that, you think like 13, 14. Those are the numbers when you write it out. Actually takes longer. In movie scripts, when you're writing them out, you write it out as the word. You don't write the digits 1 and 7.
40.
Yeah. 40? Oh. Yeah. Or 50, 60, 70. Yeah. Well, then I don't know.
12.
Maybe when you're trying to get within that
probably
realm.
gets too big.
Yeah.
Like, how many kids did you have? 40.
You can take it up with Tim Gunn.
Designers.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next question. Venom Lover asked us, why doesn't Doctor Strange use the Time Stone more in his fight against Thanos? And I think this is just a general question a lot of people are having. Anytime you bring in time travel into a movie, it's basically you now have like a god power that you really could use for all kinds of like powerful ways. Like, you know, simply he could rewind the Time Stone to tell the Star-Lord not to punch Thanos in the face to get the gauntlet off of him. You know, you can rewind the clock further and further and just slit Thanos' throat or something before he gets
Kill Thanos when he's a baby.
Kill Thanos
Classic.
when he's a baby.
Throw him right into a garbage disposal.
But why do we think that they didn't explore more of these in Infinity War?
You did see him try, and it went poorly immediately. Like, he tried to use it against them all, and immediately he got choked out, and the stone almost got taken, and that's actually how he got kidnapped, because he tried to stop and use it. And so he already knew that probably wasn't the best idea. Also, 14 million times, there's probably a time in there that he tried it at least once, maybe.
Yeah, a bunch of times.
Probably a couple, at least twice, maybe.
That's my idea. There is you just same thing. You have to remember that he saw different timelines. If using the time stone had been necessary, if it had been the one time is when I tweak it a little bit and adjust this thing, he would have done it. He did the ultimate cheat with the time stone. He figured out how they win. Yeah. Right? Like, that's like the biggest. Yeah. Why would he also do it to be like to mess with Call Obsidian further or something? Like, he doesn't need to. He did exactly as much of it as he needed to.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. It's like, what is the most valuable way to use the time stone within the world of this movie? Like, I know in the movie Doctor Strange, Mordo said that the time stone could be used in all kinds of disastrous ways.
Apples get made and
apples get eaten back and forth. Oh boy!
Why
didn't he try that? Why didn't he try to uneat an apple?
Hey, you like this apple? Oh, now it's rotten.
Mind blown. He surrenders the gauntlet. No, it's it's the same reason. Like, when you watch the third Harry Potter movie, why didn't Hermione use the time turner to go back and kill Voldemort? Like, it's just the movie starts to lose its meaning.
That's a real thing that people have a complaint about?
Oh, time turner confused the hell out of people on Leaky Cauldron and PotterNet. Right?
Oh, when I was into those. Great.
Yeah, if you follow that, it's kind of like every movie has plot holes, right? And if you shine a light on any part of the movie, you can ask questions endlessly. But the point is, as you're watching the movie, does this bother you in the moment as you're watching the scene? Then, it's kind of a plot hole. If it's something to where it's like, days later, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't totally make sense. You could say that for literally any movie that's ever
all your favorite movies have enormous plot holes in them. I'm fine with the amount of times they use the time stone. Actually, I read this fun thing online about when Thanos comes to Titan, the first person he talks to is Doctor Strange, and he's kind of almost sounds annoyed with him. Like, not that he's like, oh, you're trying to kill the universe. You know, it's like he's annoyed because he probably had this same conversation 14 million times. He's like, so where are we? You're home? And it's just like, yes, it's my home. And it's like, so he's just kind of waiting, and he's just waiting for this to finally happen.
Yeah, I messed up.
Sorry, wrong one. Let's go back. But yeah,
he fights with his girlfriend, or like, no, you're all right. I was wrong.
But like, it was kind of funny that like he sounds annoyed more so than he did in previous scenes because he already went through this and he's saying the things that he needs to say to make this work.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fun.
So basically, he doesn't want to use up all the batteries in the time stone.
Pretty exactly.
Much. That's it.
Yeah. He's a lot of AAAs.
Next question asked by @GabeMango on Twitter, and Aaron Kim. It was one of our YouTube comments on our breakdown. What happens to Red Skull after Thanos gets the Soul Stone? Like, will we ever see Red Skull again?
That's a
very
really interesting question. Yeah, because he had been banished there specifically with the idea that he would have a stone within sight that he could never have because he never loved anyone. So that's done, right?
Yeah.
So either it's, he's part of his torture that the Tesseract had assigned to him is, and then he stays there for eternity. Or what's kind of fun is if you go the comic book route, all the villains always survive stuff and then they come back.
Yeah.
And so that's a very fun idea because, they have other Captain America movies that they might want to make. Like, it's so rare that villains get to come back in the MCU. It'd be really cool to get Red Skull back. I almost called him Redstone.
It'd be cool. Maybe he just walks off into a cave. He grabs Gamora, put Gamora in maybe like a puppet tool, and she's like, hey, Gamora, how you doing? Oh, I'm real good.
She's her Wilson.
Good. Yeah. Other people were gross online, but I was like, well, what if she just has a best friend and he could just talk about it? He's like, hey, you ever... Yeah,
is she
used
like
to be...
rotting?
Huh? Yeah, but it's not great, but I mean, so is he, so he can't really complain too much.
Yeah. And she's green, so she probably turns like tan.
Yeah.
He could just be a stone keeper as he always was, but now he has to be like Thanos' butler and like polish the gauntlet.
Or he's got geodes. He's like, look at this one.
Yeah, I like the idea of somebody else visiting him on this planet, and they're like, what do you do? He's like, I keep this stone. Like, can I see it? He's like, oh, it's gone. It's like,
do you have anyone you love you could sacrifice? They're like, yeah, right here. No, you don't really love him.
Basically, he's unemployed.
Yeah. That's what it is. And if you're hiring, Red Skull's looking, guys. All right, next question. Isaac Thurmond on Instagram actually reached out to me, and he asked...
Isaac Thurmond.
And a bunch of people actually have been asking this question, and we've addressed in some of our videos. Did Hulk refuse to come out in this movie because he was afraid of Thanos, or because he remembers how much Earth hates him? And before we get too far into this, we might be doing an actual video about this subject exactly. Ooh. But what are you guys' thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, he got hit so hard that he's calm now.
He smacked the anger right out of him.
Yeah, that's basically it, right? Like, he is no longer like mad. He's just like,
I like the idea, and this is something that some other people were talking about. I like the idea that he's fed up. That he's just like, no, I'm the one that gets hit. I'm the one who has to do the heavy lifting always. I'm the one everybody hates. I'm done. I'm all done. Like, I'm tired of I tried one more time to be the good guy. I get my ass handed to me, and I still lose. Like, it's like, I'm done. I don't want to be called out just to help you every single time. No one, and Hulk is at least perceptive enough to know that everyone hates him. Like, everybody hates him or is scared of him. And like, he can go have a talk with Scarlet Witch, R.I.P. If you're like, oh, you don't let the fear rule you. Anyways, basically, if in his shoes, if he's acting kind of like a child, I would be tired. I would be just tired of all of this, and he might not be smart enough to totally perceive how big of a threat this actually is if he does not help. Yeah. So,
maybe, real talk for a second. Have either of you guys ever been beaten up?
No, I tried my best not
emotionally.
One time I got punched by this guy Leonard. If you're watching, I still don't know what that fight was about. But it was in 6th grade, and he really nailed me right here. And I had a big bruise. But I actually do remember thinking man, I'm gonna mess him up so bad the next time I see him. He just kind of sucker punched me. It's I'm gonna mess him up so bad, and I never went back to that spot in front of the school after school. And I think that's kind of where he's at, where he's kind of
he's standing right there. He's waiting. That's where he's at.
I'm not talking about Leonard now. I'm talking about Hulk again. No, but that Hulk is kind of yeah, you know what? I don't need to expose myself to the exact same ass whooping that I already received.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also just think it's more interesting to see Bruce Banner with performance anxiety, which isn't something. It's kind of the reverse of what we normally see. He's afraid that it will come out. Last year.
2017.
So many women throwing themselves out. It was just performance anxiety. Let's move on to the next question from Zol89. If Groot's arm was the Stormbreaker, does that mean Groot was worthy to wield the weapon? Kind of an interesting metaphysical question. Do the same rules apply to things once I become part of them?
Well,
So
If you were made of spare ribs, would you eat yourself?
genuine question here is: do we know that the exact same rules apply to Stormbreaker,
Ooh, yeah, that is a good question. I don't know. We didn't see anyone else pick it up.
or like enchanted in any way though? Either,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It had like just been forged. Maybe it's like you can be dirty and still pick this thing up.
Yeah.
But
Thanos didn't get laid out totally when he got an axe to the chest. He was still standing. And when Loki gets it, he's pinned to the ground permanently. He'd probably starve to death if you put him there.
right, it wants to be on the ground or
Yeah.
on a surface or whatever. But then also like how worthy is a coffee table to hold it up? Because in a way, isn't that what Groot is doing?
In
too?
Thor 2, he puts it on a coat rack and he walks away from Mjolnir. So
the most noble coat rack in all
Yeah.
the land or whatever. So maybe it's a little bit more like Groot is a bit of a surface in that
Yeah.
scenario.
I think once his arm gets severed, that is no longer part of him. If there is another sentient Groot hole that's
but he
still
does
there.
hold it up before his arm is severed.
He lifts it. Yeah, I guess it's in the process of becoming Stormbreaker in that moment. So I don't know
Yeah.
if he's wielding it truly. He is it.
maybe
would
not
be-
all the magic's there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he can't pick it up now.
Actually, no, that's a fun theory because the lightning doesn't start coming off of it until Thor like wakes up and pulls it to him. Like it's still just two pieces of metal. They're very thick. You're not really sure. It's maybe Uru. That's what it is in the comic, but they didn't
Aluminum
really
or
say what it
something,
was in this. It could be that, but there's no magic that's like activated until he calls it over.
Yeah. And we'll answer one more question I think we have time for. A bunch of people have been asking this, but Alex Vega wanted to know, why would Hela call Odin's Infinity Gauntlet fake? I guess that was in Thor Ragnarok. If in Infinity War we learned that the real one was just made relatively recently by Eitri before the events of the movie.
I think maybe oops, but I think it could be just a misunderstanding of what her meaning of fake is. Not that doesn't look like the real one. It could be like this thing I can tell would not be able to wield the stones.
Yeah, this jewelry looks fake. You know, you can just tell like, oh, it's not. This isn't a real
but
powerful
isn't
thing.
The proper whatever they make the gauntlet out of there and they forge would be obviously like, oh, that thing could wield the stones. This is made out of literally any other metal that isn't powerful enough. I mean, we saw that metal crumpled right when they get used. So maybe it's just an assessment immediately of like, there's no way that would be the gauntlet if there was a gauntlet.
Yeah, I also just think it's like many things in Thor Ragnarok, it's a joke. It's a meta thing that's really just meant for us, fans who have watched the original Thor, the first Thor, and there was like the gauntlet in the background, and they didn't really know how the gauntlet would be used in the future of the MCU. And I think they're just doing that to kind of close that loop and give that wink. They're like, we're aware that there is a goofy gauntlet in this vault, and we're just telling you right now, fans, this is
Fake
not the
news.
gauntlet.
No, in the plot hole video I did a couple weeks ago, that was the big one. It was like, how was that there? Thor's age also doesn't make a lot of sense in that movie based on like, in the movie, you see the big war between the Frost Giants and Asgardians. That happens. They get baby Loki and baby Thor, and they grow up together, and they never are in these big battles on Earth. That's what they establish. And then there's a book later in the movie that says, like, oh, remember when they used to do all this? It doesn't make any sense because he's now a young man after a couple thousand years. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. So that the early Thor movies, is what I'm saying, don't always follow logic. They don't make a lot of sense. They just wanted to make it look cool, and that was a very cool Easter egg to hide there.
Yeah.
Later on,
Here's what's interesting. Those movies were heavily designed by the writers of Infinity War, right? Because they did the Dark World, and then they did not do Ragnarok, but they were on the phone with Taika saying, "What the hell are you doing?" But they actually probably did have a little bit of like, that they did have to figure out how are we going to make this work now.
Yeah, I think the Taika Waititi in general with Ragnarok had kind of a loose interpretation of how the timeline of events worked. Like there was a deleted scene that was going to feature Yondu in it, and Yondu, of course, died at the end of Volume 2, Guardians. So I think he's just like,
It's
well,
his
he's a character
brother.
that exists in the world at somewhere, and I don't think he was really thinking about, other than like the circumstances of how Hulk ended up there and how Thor ended up where he was. I don't know if the script is really that focused on fitting in the continuity of the MCU. But those are all the questions we have time for. And thank you all so much for sending in your thoughts. And keep sending them. If we didn't answer your question here, there is a very good chance we will be answering it in a future video on its own. You'll get the star treatment where, one of us will be screaming at you in front of a blue screen and after all the research we've done for it. Yes. And we keep those questions coming. We look forward to hearing from you all. And thank you again. But let's move on to this week's trivia question.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. And we have our cards here.
So can you give us our trivia question music that you're just making up right now for the first time?
Ding, 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 ding,
Ooh, that's
ding,
good
ding.
music.
Question time.
Put that on.
Here we go.
time.
In Infinity War, what humorous phrase is written on the sign in the restaurant in Scotland that Scarlet Witch and Vision stand outside?
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, all of our answers are in the bucket here. Later in the show, we'll reveal the answer to the trivia question, and the closest answer, as decided by our judge, we'll do our sign-off goodbyes at the end of the video. The loser will have to do something challenging. As always, it'll be fun. But let's move on. Before we continue with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a quick update from some of the news this week. Since this is new Rockstars news, we want to cover everything for you, so you don't have to go to all your other dumb sources. Okay, the upcoming Harley Quinn animated series will reportedly feature actress Kaley Cuoco from The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
All right. Cuoco could be voicing Harleen Quinzel herself or a different character. Various actresses have played Harley over the years. Of course, there was Margot Robbie in Suicide Squad, and Arlene Sorkin voiced her in the Batman the Animated Series. Other names on the new series cast list include Tara Strong. Arlene Sorkin did one, and Tara Strong has done in other versions. There's been a lot of different ones over the years. But other names on the cast list included Alan Tudyk and Tony Hale. Alan Tudyk has done voice of the Flash
great.
in the.
He's amazing.
And,
yeah.
Tony Hale from Veep and Arrested Development. Okay, everyone, a new trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp dropped this week. It's on the shorter side. With a few new shots of the villain Ghost and that's a woman who can phase shift through solid surfaces. Very cool. And there's some banter between Scott, Hank, and Hope. Interestingly, the trailer ends with Scott Lang saying, "Oh, also we got to save the world. That's major. Can't forget that." Now, sure, that could just be a joke about how every superhero's task is pretty much to save the world, but in the context of the ending of Infinity War, Scott might not be too far off. So how exactly will Ant-Man's sequel connect to those events? It's pretty clear that Ant-Man and the Wasp will at least be set before Infinity War. It's just not likely that Scott and the rest would care that much about Ghost and silly car chases and shrinking down buildings into luggage if half of the freaking world had just been snapped out of existence, right? Like, that's an apocalyptic situation. Civilized society would be losing their minds. But it is still possible that the ending of Ant-Man and the Wasp could tie into Infinity War. Like we've speculated in the past, that the final scene of the movie or maybe a post-credit scene could feature characters in Scott's world suddenly not feeling so good. And
his daughter. She's gone.
It's going to be his daughter.
She's gone for.
Oh boy.
Dad.
Now,
so
one
mean.
interesting element from Ant-Man has that he has contributed to the MCU is the quantum realm. Remember, that's a subatomic dimension that exists beyond time and space. It's where Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp, is still missing. The movie will focus on their search for her. Now, access to a dimension beyond time and space sounds like it could give Ant-Man and the Wasp a special edge against Thanos in Avengers 4, if that ends up going that way. Or if you believe in the theory that the characters who faded away at the end of Infinity War were actually just transported to another parallel dimension. Maybe the quantum realm could serve as a way you can go between those dimensions, allowing Ant-Man to rescue people and bring them back. What do you guys think? What are some ways that Ant-Man could connect to Infinity War?
Could you imagine if that's the tone he has about saving the universe? Like, oh, we got to save the world too. And you get outside and you just see somebody sweeping up a bunch of stuff off the ground. You're like, uh-oh, little dark, but he's just joking and shrinking and having a great time flying on with Wasp. I'm hoping that that's post-credit. I'm hoping that the movie is contained enough that we can just still get a story and it doesn't have to literally end with that.
No, it's definitely going to be post-credits.
Yeah.
I'm going to put money down on that right here. I'm announcing it. Get ready, $6.
Now the question, will it be comedic? Will it be dark? What's his daughter's name? Lacey?
Cassie.
Dusty. Or will it be kind of a joke? Maybe one of his buddies, Michael Pena's character, could be fading away as he's telling a story, and then the story starts to fade away.
Maybe Hank. I think that would add some stakes for Hope. I mean, not that she would need any, but something that would have personal stake in that, so that she's motivated to join the Avengers and come help out. I feel like that'd
could
be pretty good.
Scott.
Yeah.
Right? He could dust out.
Maybe, but we have seen some onset stuff with him and the other Avengers, so maybe
It's really hard to know because you hear all these things of like some people are confirmed for Avengers 4 who have faded away.
But I do like your idea of like if he is gonna help, I hope it's something specific to Ant-Man's powers and not that thing where he kind of just like packs a wall up sometimes out of nowhere like that. Yeah. That's a very basic usage of him that I almost feel like include him or not, like. You don't have to include him. If you do, find a clever way to use them. And I think we all know it's getting small enough to get behind the stones and pushing the stones out.
Or crawling in his ear and popping his
neck, and then getting big inside. But then he gets crushed inside his skull.
Classic.
I'm super excited about the Quantum just because it seems so cosmic for a movie that seems anything but. That seems pretty practical and like grounded. Like going into this whole other realm that seems almost Doctor Strangean. I would love to see if that. Like if there's some kind of very specific way that he can connect with the people who have faded away through the quantum realm.
I just don't know that I buy that because the quantum realm is supposed to be this idea of like beyond subatomic, right? Like,
yes.
So it's in existence and we're just going to the most basic forms of our existence. But then it just something about that logic. I see that line down of like shrinking. I don't see why the alternate realities wouldn't have their own quantum realm.
But it's a circle. It funnels down and all of reality is within a circle that creates a portal back into another side.
That's how the quantum realm works in our world. So if the writers were good, I feel like maybe he shrinks down. The official theory, he shrinks down into the Soul Stone. That'd be kind of cool because the Soul World's in there, and maybe we don't have a direct way of like getting to it, and that could be a place that could be a way that he helps out because Ant-Man has shrunk into cosmic level things in the comics, and it's always been very cool the way they played around with that kind of stuff, and I feel like that'd be a good way to get him to help out in some way.
And a lot of people do believe that is where the souls of the people who faded away are contained. They're contained within the Soul Stone. That's one idea that people have. So maybe that could be a way. It just sounds
like people like want them to have a backup copy of everyone. I just don't know that they're like even if it's their souls, then what makes them corporeal again?
That's a question we all have.
Their skin is in the space stone.
Their hearts are in the reality stone.
You know how Flash's costume in like cartoons?
It's just skin suits just fall out,
and then the ghost flies into it.
All right, get in line. We're gonna try to get you in the same one, but if we can't find it,
it's like an assembly line. It's like skin, soul, skin, soul. Guys, run away quick because people are coming out quick.
All right, another interesting news update to come out from this week. Guys, a set photo from Daredevil's third season on Netflix included a costume department jacket with a logo showing a target, hinting to some of us that the villain of that third season could be Bullseye.
Yes.
Now, Bullseye is probably one of the more well-known villains from Daredevil in the Marvel Comics.
Who could forget?
Who could forget, right? Colin Farrell, our buddy back here, played a version of Bullseye in the 2003 Ben Affleck Daredevil. No one ever makes fun of course.
Did they explain in that? Did he do that to himself?
No, I've watched it recently.
Oh.
He doesn't. There's that scene. This specific scene is when he's like doing darts in a bar, and then he grabs a paperclip because someone makes fun of him. He somehow flattens it out by doing this, and he darts the dude in the throat with it.
That's cool. Actually.
And for some reason, he whenever he moves his jacket, rattlesnake sounds come out of it. It doesn't make any sense.
What kind of jacket? Maybe
it's a
rattlesnake jacket.
Rattlesnake skin jacket.
Yeah.
It's just made of rattlesnakes. It looks
like
a cigarette burner in a car.
Yes,
someone stamped on his head.
Yeah.
When he was a baby, because that's when it would have been smaller.
And it scaled up.
Well, there's your update on Daredevil season 3. Okay, everyone, we just learned that The Walking Dead's leading man, Andrew Lincoln, who plays Rick Grimes, will not continue on the series throughout Season 9. Currently, he is planned for a 6-episode arc in Season 9, after which he will depart from the series. Lincoln is the only cast member to remain on the show from its pilot in 2010, or was it 2009? Chandler Riggs' Carl was killed off this past season, and Lenny James Morgan returned for the past few seasons. He was gone for a bit. Now he recently moved on to Fear the Walking Dead. And really, after Andrew Lincoln, the only cast members left from Season 1 are Norman Reedus, who plays Daryl, and Melissa McBride, who plays Carol. AMC is reportedly in talks with Norman Reedus to give him a raise to $20 million to stay on the show throughout Season 9. So
or you could cancel it.
You could just
bring the show to an end.
That's kind of the question now, right? Because the death of Carl was such a huge shocker to viewers. Because Carl was really the future of the storylines in Robert Kirkman's comics. He kind of becomes sort of what seems like the successor. To lose Rick would be an even bigger blow. He really is the heart of the series. So, you could say that maybe Daryl and Carol and Negan are certainly strong supporting characters. I would say, having watched all these episodes more than once, the way their characters have been used in recent seasons has kind of lost some of the enthusiasm, at least I have had for them in past seasons like 3 and 4. But I don't know. Do you guys think there is a future for the show? What could a future look like if Daryl's now the leading man on the show? Or is it really time to call it quits?
Whenever shows have made these kind of tougher calls to try to keep going when the lead actor leaves, they don't last long. They'll probably get another season usually. Walking Dead is the biggest show cable's ever had, period, forever and ever, amen. But like you can only keep going for so long, and since fan excitement for the show, I don't know specific numbers off the top of my head of what kind of like viewership they still
17.
get. 17?
Well, that was the peak. Yeah, it actually was 17 million viewers for the Negan Glenn episode. It's dropped. It's now beneath 10 million viewers an episode for many of the episodes in season 8.
But that's still really good. But anyways,
good,
I wouldn't see the show going much further. But again, I am not the biggest fan of Walking Dead, so I do not know.
Well, let's try to come up with a way that if the show had to keep going because money, then I don't know that it's Norman Reedus leading the same story again, right? Like Andrew Lincoln did a good job, and his character, even in the comics, like they almost run out of stuff to where to take his character. He just becomes an old man, basically. It's like
there's some talks that maybe Lauren Cohan as Maggie could.
She could.
But she's also, her contract has been kind of in question on whether she's going to return.
Well,
to
these
the
are
show.
actors that want to have careers, right? Outside of just this one show, which especially Andrew Lincoln was starting to age out of it. Yeah. I'm sure he also is sick of having a beard and stuff.
Yeah.
But what is the version of this show that say they were like, okay, we're going to do a hard pivot? Is there another thing? My gut always goes to this. I know that this is a story that's been told. I always really like military and like the White House version, like what happened to the president, what happened to the vice president. I always love seeing the institutions crumble.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be interesting to follow an institution.
Well, doing what Darabont wanted to do from the guy in the tank from the pilot. Was that Sam Witwer, by the way? His voice of Darth Maul and actual Darth Maul in Solo. Yeah, they were going to follow him in season 2, as we know.
For a little bit, at least.
And for a little bit. It's tough, right? Because Fear the Walking Dead already showed us a version of like the earlier part of the timeline.
Right.
And
but they didn't show us. They showed us kind of what I think I'm saying is like pretty common to see is like the little band of military that's always supposed to be like a salvation, but then it ends up being corrupt kind of thing. But I think like, what about like a version of like Apocalypse Now or something, like a Colonel Kurtz figure that's out there and like actually has, he has seized himself as the head of the government now because he's the highest ranking military official, and then like but he's also corrupt, and maybe other military people have to take him out or something. Like, I don't know, I could see some sort of thing there, but again, I'm talking about a pretty hard pivot.
That would have to be a hard pivot. I think there's a version of this that could maybe, and this is probably what they would try to do if Norman Reedus ended up taking up the show, is basically have Norman Reedus as the leader of the survivors of the Alexandria Safe Zone, and have the Whisperer storyline with him, and he has to deal with Alpha and all the characters who are connected with the Whisperers, which doesn't sound that exciting because really it's just because the version of Daryl we know is from recent seasons where he's really just been like running around the woods grunting.
Well, and also the Whisperer storyline is not. It's not like
there's one crazy cool thing that happens.
It's
in
a cool idea too, and the show could benefit from taking some creative, making some creative choices of their own and changing it up a little bit. But I mean, if you're safe bet for me, you go with the fan favorite character, and that's Norman Reedus. I know you are right about his current his current like situation, the way he's been portrayed, but you could spend some time like growing and making him actually like develop more. So
I think the show needs to be smaller. Like AMC, if you're looking for a way to save money with this, like season 1 just felt so intimate and on a personal level. Like the opening sequence, which pretty much adapted frame for frame from Robert Kirkman's comics, had like this 28 Days Later feeling to it, and it felt like, this is a very interesting story. And now it just feels like post-apocalyptic politics in a way that sometimes is interesting, but overall just feels like we're jumping around to B plots and episodes with characters that we aren't that excited about. But I think there's a way you can make this work instead of maybe doing 8 episodes, 16 episodes that you got to fill up. Like maybe just have like a 6-episode arc and maybe make that all of season 9, and if it does well, make it 6 great episodes, and then decide which characters you want to bring back for season 10, which could be just another 6 episodes if you decide to go that way.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue the show had is that, and it had to because of logic, it's been on so long, they had to figure out how to deal with walkers, and they did. And so the biggest threat, the titular threat of the show, stopped mattering, right? It was now the walkers on the show are almost the idea of like, yeah, Carl got in a car accident or something, right? It's like this thing that, like, if everything goes according to plan, you shouldn't even be worried about the walkers. And then, oh no, the dam broke and he drowned in walkers. Like, the walkers have just become kind of
background set dressing.
Like just like, whoa, this rock is slippery. Like that's what it feels like to be attacked by a walker now, instead of that looming threat that almost like Michael Myers represents, that is like always right behind you and you just don't know it. Some of my favorite moments of the show was when they had no grounds, like nowhere to be. They were just camping, and it's like one of the most shocking moments. I mean, this is season 1. Is they're camping out. Rick hasn't gotten back to them, or he just is about to or something, and they're just in the middle of the woods and they're sitting around the campfire and they just get overtaken by walkers out of nowhere.
So the camera pans around, there's a walker grilling a s'more right there.
They make eye contact.
But I remember that moment.
That was that feeling like there's always one right. They're talking bad about the walkers. There's one right behind me. But that feeling that the walker was always right behind you, or kind of like it follows kind of thing, right? And that's totally gone. So I don't know how you do it unless you. So maybe if you put Daryl on the road, maybe you get that back.
Yeah.
Going back to basics, not a bad idea.
Yeah. All right, now let's move on to our new Rockstars News Lightning Round. You guys have tweeted us questions. I'm going to fire them at my co-hosts. They have to answer them as quickly without hesitation as possible. Starting with Sam.
Hello.
At Olivia Thomo wants to know, how does Sam get his hair so great?
Ew, my hair looks gross close up if you have one. So you can check it out. It's pretty gross up close. A lot of hair up there. Too much. Go get some, there you go. Bumble and Bumble. You use it's a matte finish. You can put that in your hair and you'll look a lot better than me.
Bumble and Bumble ooze?
Boiling
Now,
trouble.
Yeah, Bumble and Bumble, yeah.
It's called ooze?
No, matte. It is a matte finish.
Oh, it sounded like you said Bumble and Bumble ooze.
Bumble and Bumble matte finish.
Filup at, I want to say at Joven, but it's not. It's J0V3N.
Joven.
Joven, yeah. Why would Han keep the name the Empire gave him? It'd be like if Nazis gave you your last name and you kept it. That's a very good question.
I mean, I feel like a lot of like Nazis did give last name, but aside from that, like he's just, your last name is a metaphor for who you are, right? So it's kind of like, what would he change it to? Like only or something?
Alone.
Or like,
Han Lone.
Yeah, Han Lonely. Han Lonely.
And it's different in the military. Like, simple example, my dad's last name was Voss growing up, Voss, and then he became a Navy officer, and then just his drill sergeant and all of his colleagues started calling him Voss, and that's just now our section of the family. All of his brothers and their kids go by Voss, we go by Voss.
Yeah.
Just because it's the military.
But honestly, here's a in-world answer if you want one, or whatever, right? It's you take what the people who you hate the most have branded you with, and you use it against them. This is a reminder that fuels you.
Reclaim it.
Exactly, and now it's your name.
And that is what my father did as well. Use it against him.
Lightning.
Lightning, and then I have some options here for me.
Multiple options, and we will go with Erik at Olivia Thomo.
She got 2 in here.
Yeah, good job, Olivia Thomo. Fear of missing out. Marvel character you relate to or are similar to? What Marvel character are you most similar to? Can the rest of us answer this?
Yeah. I'll say my answer. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Most similar to probably like Jarvis before he becomes Vision, who's just kind of like a know-it-all.
Invisible butler.
Yeah. He's like, where is he right
He's got
now?
facts all the time, but you're not really sure which voice is coming from.
Yeah, he's always got the last word. Yeah.
Ned.
Yeah.
I'm the guy in the
Big
chair playing games and helping out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
DC has Arm Falls Off Man.
Arm Fall Off Lad. Yeah.
No, I would say, I mean, Scarlet Witch, because you got over that accent real quick.
Yeah.
The Voss accent.
Yeah. That sounds good. And a question that we didn't have time for that I thought was interesting that I want you guys to answer below. Who is the better Han Solo, Sam, Filup, or Erik? They want to know, so answer.
No.
It's not fair for us to answer because we all have our own thoughts.
We each have our own things, right?
Check it out.
Clearly looks the
Filup,
most. Sam clearly looks the most like Alden Ehrenreich
Hello.
version, right? You're
Old man Harrison Ford in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, that bitter thing. I'm the most likely to cheat, lie, or steal. I know that. So I feel like it's like all of us together are half a man.
I'd mostly. Hey, you know what? If you want to throw the nice, I'll look like Al. But also, I'd be most likely to talk to a dog for a long period of time. So that's
Right.
always there's that bonus to me.
Yeah, and thank you at KCG
We made our
Filio
case.
for asking. Great question. Great, and yeah, thank you all for writing your questions. And keep them up, and we'll get to them in future episodes. But now comes the time for our 15-second shout out, where each of us has 15 seconds to shout out, plug, or ramble about anything we want to talk about. Sam, why don't you start?
It is the beginning of Pride Month, so celebrate appropriately, be nice to each other, and have fun. 15 seconds.
Oh, 15 seconds. Philip, go ahead.
It's the near time of VidCon.
Hey.
All right, so get ready. VidCon, June 20th through 23rd,
3rd, 4th. Yep.
We're gonna be there. Plus mod. So if you want to meet us in person, we're going to try to set up some sort of meet and greet, except VidCon told us that they don't have a space available for us.
So if you know where the closest IHOP
so
is.
if you have somewhere for us to stay and then host a meet and greet, and then maybe even a live episode of this, you can hang out with us in person. We're going to be giving away some sweet merch related to Infinity War. So come find us, because we will have... Cool. I almost gave away what it was. We will have cool stuff for you guys. So find any of us and we'll have some.
Yeah, and check our social media feeds, because we'll be live
drop
updating
clues
where we
of
little
where we
clues.
are.
Maybe we'll do that thing where you throw several thousands of dollars into a place and cause an intentional mob. That was last year. Oops. For my 15-second shout out, I want to shout out someone who doesn't get enough love, Disney or Bob Iger. Right. We gave you guys some heat this time last year when Disney fired the Lord and Miller directing team and replaced them with Ron Howard. But man, did Disney get it right this week. With the, as you may have known, ABC canceled Roseanne, which is its current #1 show. Not an easy thing to do from a business perspective, but, as someone who grew up with the show Roseanne in the 90s, and I liked the new version of it, it's whatever your politics are. Roseanne Barr is not the best person, and she has delved into some very dangerous conspiracy theories,
mentally ill.
racism, and anti-Semitism, and it's not good for someone like that to have such a huge platform. And you know what? This isn't about freedom of speech. If if a network decides that someone like that doesn't deserve to be a millionaire, that's in that network's right to do that. I think we're all better off for it. She can say anything she wants on her Twitter or whatever, her own YouTube channel, but we don't have to let that person be super wealthy and have such a huge voice in our society. And they can get their the rocks off other places. But I think we're better off for all of us this way. I think the world's a better place. And you know what? Everyone on that show is at the top of their game. They'll be able to find work elsewhere. I don't think any of them are sweating it that bad.
John Goodman will be fine.
Yeah, and the crew is going to be rehired on other shows.
Absolutely.
By the way, just so no one lays into Erik, I totally agree with Erik. Sam, totally agree with Erik. Our owners will have all of us fired and replaced, but that'll be fun.
Yeah. And finally, let us return to our trivia question that we asked earlier. And just to remind everyone what it was it about that Scottish restaurant, right? The humorous phrase on the sign in the Scottish restaurant that Scarlet Witch and Vision were standing outside. What did the
y'all not gonna get my reference?
Say? Right,
mine is kind of a reference too.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start down
I
here.
don't get you.
What did Sam say?
Sam said, "Ravioli, ravioli, give me the formioli."
It's from SpongeBob.
You know what's so
You
weird
plebes.
is that I knew it had to be from SpongeBob because it's just like the same nonsense repeated again and again, which I think is how he talks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ravioli, ravioli, give me the formioli.
And it's on a Scottish restaurant outside.
Philip said, "Wet your willy here." Which, that sounds like some
Willie
Scottish.
is a Scottish name.
And
I
just
couldn't
Mine
think
had
of
food
anything.
in it
Yeah.
and a formula for the Krabby Patty. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Erik said, Shrek eats free, Shrek is life.
Yeah.
Shrek eats free.
He's trying to
Shrek
fall
is
into
love.
he's trying to play into your
Shrek
love of
is life.
memes, Aaron.
Yes, Aaron. Aaron. So, of
Our
those
special
three.
guest judge, Aaron Paul.
What had the?
Which was the best
well,
pitch?
I should say what the correct answer is. You don't get to decide yet.
I win?
Well, let's
Sam
say what the
wins?
answer is. The answer is we will deep fry your kebab. Because I
We
guess
will
it's a
deep
thing in
fry
Scotland where
your
they deep
kebab.
fry everything.
Kebabs are Scottish?
No, but they'll deep fry anything.
So you bring over a Greek kebab and then
You can bring-
I
yeah.
guess they probably have lamb shanks. or
Yes,
something.
they do.
All right.
All right, so you were saying who is the closest to me, of course. Yes, Sam. is-
Sam.
Yep.
It's so much
Mine
more
has
fun
a
when he's
Scottish reference.
And the
wherever it
loser
and
is,
then yours just says Shrek again and again.
Shrek speaks in a Scottish accent, so
He does?
it's donkey. 3. I
Lies.
lose.
So 3. There you go.
man.
All right.
Not with any
Last.
jokes yet. All right. Well, the winner will do our goodbyes. First, we're going to quickly run through some other news headlines we didn't have time for. Filup will read each headline. The loser, me, I'll make a joke about it to cleverly riff on the headline. Boy. Okay.
I'm not buying it. I think you love this.
I should love it, but Erik didn't plan ahead. So let's go for it.
All right. In other news, Westworld and X-Men star James Marsden will star in a live-action version of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yuck.
I'm sure after watching that movie, we'll all want to be Cyclopses at least. Gouge our eye out and leave one eye.
Audience, please don't make it look like Erik was doing something else.
Oh, come on. Come on.
That's what's closer to your eye now.
Guys, come on.
boy.
Also in other news, solo writer Larry Kasdan said he and Harrison Ford fought for Han Solo to die in Return of the Jedi. Audience, do not make it sound like Erik is feeling something else right
Yeah.
now.
They, the way they wanted him to die was to have him Ewok the plank.
Hey, in other news, Tom Hanks said he almost made a cameo in Solo: A Star Wars Story as a stormtrooper, but that his schedule did not line up.
That'd be cool.
Yep. Yump. His character name would have been Captain Phillips.
Yay!
Oh, because pirates are in that movie.
Sure, that's what you meant.
Just say it's a military title.
Good job. And also, oh god, there's 2 more. Ready? All right. Thor Ragnarok and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom actor Jeff Goldblum is releasing a jazz piano album.
Those are his 2
Jazz
biggest movies.
Piano album.
That's most recent.
Jeff Goldblum.
See,
Thor
what I'm
Ragnarok.
doing is I have like the 3 different categories of specifics, and I'm trying to connect the dots.
You ever hear a joke explained to you before it's told?
And
It makes
here
it
is.
funnier. Just watch any one of my videos on Rick and Morty.
So here's the beginning.
Oh, if only
and-
we could just
and
do
then
this.
joke.
So Thor Ragnarok, Jurassic World.
You got this.
Jazz is a music so old only dinosaurs listen to it.
Yay! And Sesame Street lost a lawsuit against an upcoming Melissa McCarthy movie, The Happy Time Murders, which features a gag about ejaculating puppets. Is there anything funny about that, Erik?
Nada.
Well, I guess they're not just stuffed with stuffing. Stuffed with jizz.
Oh, yeah.
Yay! Why do we do this?
That's how puppets ejaculate. They're just all animals.
Oh, boy.
Yikes.
Time for goodbyes. Thank you guys for watching this week's episode of New Rockstars News. I want to thank our hosts over here on me at Sam Bashor. You can follow me there. You can check out my podcast, Only Stupid Answers, over here. You got Erik Voss at EA Voss. It's in the game. And over on the other end, you got Filup Molina at Femo. Go check him out. And
That's the only 3
there's
hosts.
another one on the teleprompter.
Trying to take it out.
Tommy, stop putting your name in the teleprompter on episodes that you're not
Follow
here.
Tommy Bechtold. All right, comment down below and tweet at New Rockstars. Like this video, share it around, and subscribe to New Rockstars to check out more deep dives into the stuff that you love. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Oh, my God.
That's gonna make that look really cool.
And you cursed.
And I cursed at the end. Well, I won, damn it.
How do I be funnier?
Bye.
On the fly.
See you at VidCon.
We're gonna raid you one of your Airbnbs.
Where were you guys on 9/11?
It's gonna come out my fucking nose. I just bailed on it.